It's Dew Time with Pastor Steph.
Good morning. Good morning and good morning. Rise and shine. You're on with this Dew Time with Pastor Steph. How are you this morning? That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. For this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So, where were you last week? Woo-wee! Last week it was fun. Over here on this Dew Time with Pastor Steph. Yo, it was lit all week. I just want to give you a few highlights as to what went down here. We talked about some warning signs of dealing with an evil person. You know, we always got this back and forth with whether it's just plain on simple evil or if it's mental illness, because everybody want to put everything on mental illness. And last week when we got to talking, they enjoy the misfortune of others is one of the keys that they say is a sign of an evil person. When you don't want to see nobody happy, when you always, rejoice and, you smiling when something not that good happens to someone, or if you hear something good and then you hear that something bad and you're like, oh, well, everybody can't be happy. Misery loves company. Oh, they have control issues. Yes, that's one of the things that they talked about, showing signs of an evil person. That is definitely an evil person, because they always want to be in control of everybody. They are habitually dishonest. They get joy out of everything that is like always off the path of right. It's, oh, you ever had that person around you? It's like nothing they do is honest. They always got to come up with some side scheme. You're like, yo, what's with you? Why you just can't do things on the up and up? Yeah, those are like some key things. And one of the other things they talked about was you feel strange around them. Now, don't underestimate your intuition, the Spirit of the Lord. Don't. God gives you that discernment to, kind of feel out of the way. There are people that's like something about them. I remember my mother used to always say that. She said, Stephanie, there's something about them. I can't put my finger on it. And you know what? She'd always end up being right. Always end up being right. The way she did it was always like, really? But she was always right. It was something that she felt she really couldn't say. And when you have that going on, you better pay attention. You better pay attention to that. Now, I want to go back a minute. We had our Pastor Dotlin Simpson on last week, and she talked about how she did a part 2 of praying for my husband's marriage. And we went straight out of this world instantaneously. That was Monday. Talk about getting a week started or shaking the Monday morning blues. Yes, she took it straight out the park. Started off with being my husband's friend, praying for my husband's friends. And you can't pray for your husband's friends on the outside without you praying for you, because you are the first friend that he has outside of Jesus. Yes. And, he will go out and he, will find people that have things in common with him. Maybe some old friend. One thing about men, they will carry old friends with them. They don't have many new people in their life. Women will pick up people a lot quicker along the way opposed to men. And she talked about that. She talked about being his friend, that work wife that he may have. She talked about turning that thing around and making sure you're that first person that he's looking at, and the things you need to do to spice up that marriage. Yo, it was crazy. Yes. Well, we had a little different Women's Day last week, and we talked about the lies that the enemy tells us and what we believe. And the church is not effective was one. God will not be faithful to you is another. God is not going to answer your prayers. These are very common lies that the enemy tells you. And the thing about that is he will manipulate it where he's not going to come right out and say the church is not effective. He's not going to come right out and say God will not be faithful to you. He's not going to come right out and say God is not going to answer your prayers. He's going to manipulate your mind. He's going to manipulate your thoughts. Now, that is not to say he can get in your head. That's one thing God has not given him access to. When I say that, he manipulates your mind through your eyes. He manipulates your mind through your heart. All the things that you're feeling and, you're concerned about. And there's just some big time manipulation that goes on then. He plays on those things. God will not be faithful to you comes across in a whole lot different ways. When you always suspecting your husband or your wife of being unfaithful and you're a Christian person, that is ultimately God not being faithful to you. Yeah, you said, well, what they got to do with man? It may not have anything to do with man. That's the problem. That's the problem. It may not be anything that person did, but because of your history, God won't be faithful to you with this husband or this wife because others have done you wrong. We did a story of a guy who used to come home from work and sit in his car for an hour. And the wife would watch him out the window, pull up and just sit out there. And when it all came out, he said he was afraid to come in the house directly because there was a relationship where he was living with this woman, and he came in the house and he caught somebody in the house with her. So that left him fearful, of believing that nobody else would do it to him. Well, ultimately, that ends up being in a God category, because are you trusting God that he chose for you the next time, or did you move on your own? And if you believe that God is faithful to you and you've done what you were supposed to do, then you can't walk in that. That's something that happened to you before. So that's what I'm saying. See, the enemy ain't coming right out and telling you God will not be faithful to you. There's a whole bunch of other garbage that's going on that translates to the same exact thing. So, man, I'm telling you, this thing is deep. And we talked to the men last week about the Black Lives Matter movement that took place. And now, because of DEI, they're looking to completely undo that. So even the plaza that they put down in Washington, with the big yellow letters sprawled out on the ground, Black Lives Matter, they're looking to take that up. And we talked about whether, you should fight, for this, whether you should just let it go, whether it was really yours to begin with. So, the general consensus was, well, it was a loner. They did that so they could shut us up. And, Now that they're looking to take it back, how do you move forward? If it was only a loaner, do you just go ahead and throw your hands up and just say, okay, well, we'll just get something else? Or do you kind of hold on to that and just fight for it? So the due time men said, fight. You gave it to us, whether it was your intention to give it to us for keeps or not, you killed that. It is ours now. Or Brother Ainsley said, or give us something else. Go ahead and take it. But what we want, what are we getting in exchange? So, excuse me, it becomes quite complex if you let it. Well, we did get our switch tip last week. And our switch tip was stop pushing past God's protection. And all last week, we walked all over that, believing the lies of the enemy, how to spot an evil person. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to stay within God's protective barrier? Or are you just going to keep on moving as though God does not have something around you, a protection around you? And if God has a protection around you, don't walk from underneath that. Don't walk from underneath that. Because if you do, you out on your own. Yes. You're not going to be covered. No. God is going to step back after a while. He's not going to keep on going. So just make sure you stay underneath that barrier. Well, last night we had prayer. Yes, the Word Prayer Project room was open. And we prayed for obedience to the will of God. Yes, not just obedient. That's one thing. But obedience to the will of God. What does God want for your life? What does God want you to have? What does God want? Again, that protective barrier. He wants you not to perish. So because he does not want to see you perish, he's going to put that protective barrier around you. What are you going to do? Are you going to step out of it because you got to go your own way? You got to have your own will. You got to do your own thing. That's the way the world is living right now. And this is one of the reasons why this world is as chaotic as it is. So I don't know, y'all. I don't know. What we going to do? What we going to do? What we going to do? Well, that's how we spent our week, and that's how we got our launch into this week. And today we are shaking the Monday morning blues. So if you got up on the wrong side of the bed, you won't last very long here in that mentality. And I guess that's why you're on, because Pastor Steph and the Due Time crew is going to talk about some things that's going to help you get that week launched, get that week jump started into a wonderful week of God's protection again. Yeah. Did you step out of the protection? Yeah, well, don't worry about it. We're going to help you. We're going to help you. We're going to help you. That's our job. All right. So go ahead and get that healthy breakfast. Go ahead and tell somebody that it's Due Time with Pastor Steph is on. And whatever you do, don't go anywhere, because we will be right back.
So vitally important. Your doctors will not tell you this because they're simply not trained, despite massive evidence. If you have high blood pressure, the doctors should always check for vitamin D levels. Vitamin D is the most important vitamin for the inside of the artery, yet it's completely ignored. I mean, if you look up the actual cause of hypertension, 90% of it is called essential. It means unknown cause. And I'm going to be bold and tell you that essential hypertension is a vitamin D deficiency. And you're about to learn why vitamin D is so important. Number one, it's a potent anti-inflammatory. Number two, it's a potent antioxidant. And number three, it directly increases something called nitric. Vitamin D helps increase calcium absorption in the intestine by 20 times so it can support your bone health.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and good morning again. Welcome back to It's Due Time with Pastor Steph, and we are shaking the Monday morning blues. Well, if you're in the room, you got to make sure you say a hearty good morning to Pastor Steph. You know, I get, a little upset when I don't know who's in the room. I don't know who I'm talking to. And I love to say good morning to you. So Terrence must have been up all night long because he was the first one on here this morning, nice and early before we even opened up. So good morning, Terrence. He beat Miss Ketty. Yes, he did. Good morning, Miss Ketty. I know you're out there. It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about Terrence. Don't worry about Terrence. We got our girl, Lady Tamika, on board with us this morning. Good morning, Tamika. And Miss Charlene, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Were you on our prayer last night, Miss Charlene? If you didn't, you missed it. Oh, my goodness gracious, you missed it. Oh, we got to check in from our boy, Serge. Hey, Serge, how are you? And we must say good morning to the ladies in the background who hold it down every single morning for us. Let's say good morning to Shantice and Anika. Good morning. Good morning to you all. I love that good morning. I love that good morning. You know, when we were on Blog Talk, I couldn't see. So I didn't know who was on unless you had called in. And that didn't reflect, everybody, because sometimes you're online listening. So, yes, I got my cute little dance bouncing this morning. And what are we talking about this morning? What's the health tip for this morning? All right. Well, I get most of my health tips from my loyal Due Time listener. Yeah, she always comes through for me. The first thing I do when I'm looking for my health tips is I check her text, because she always gives it to me as soon as she gets it. Very rarely do I have to go looking. So Pastor Steph does not look all the time. There's sometimes I get from my Due Time listener. So if there's something that you can, that you think that would be a great health tip, make sure you reach out. Coach, the number 4, Christian. There we go. 4, Christian Life. Coach 4, Christian Life at yahoo.com. Or if you want to direct message me, you can always do that. And you can coach for the word for, F-O-R, Christian Life, and that's Facebook. Okay? All right. So we're talking about foods you should never eat before you go to bed. Wow. Let's see what they got on this list. Well, the first thing they're talking about is caffeinated foods and drinks. Okay? They say that the chemicals in the caffeine stimulate your brain, so it keeps you from sleeping. So you surely don't want that before you go to bed. So they say make sure, if you want your sleep cycles to go well, that you make sure you don't drink coffee. They say even decaffeinated coffee contains some small amounts of caffeine. Do not drink tea. All right. Black, green, even some herbal teas can contain caffeine. Yes. Chocolate, dark chocolate in particular, they say it has a high caffeine content. Ooh, okay. Soda and energy drinks. They say these beverages are packed with caffeine and sugar, and they are a double threat at keeping us from sleeping. All right. So remember those beverages. All right. Spicy foods. Yes. They say spicy foods can trigger acid reflux and heartburn. So you definitely don't want to try to get that in right before you go to bed, because it will definitely make your sleep uncomfortable if you could ever go to sleep. Okay. So they say capsaicin is the compound that gives chili peppers their heat, and it also raises your body temperature. Well, you know that when you eat and you be sweating, yeah, sweating and stuff be coming out your ears, top of your head. I ate that Chinese mustard one time, the yellow mustard. I ain't talking about that stuff that come in a packet. Mm-mm, mm-mm. I'm talking about the real authentic, like spicy brown color. I thought that was like the packet. Put that on my food. When I tell you that thing came straight to the top of my head, oh my goodness. So you definitely don't eat no spicy foods before it's time to go to bed. They say when your body temperature is raised, it may interfere with the body's natural cooling process that's needed for sleep. Okay, so they say foods to avoid: hot peppers, jalapenos, habaneros, and other spicy chilies, spicy curries. They say they're often loaded with heat-inducing spices and hot sauces. And they say that can irritate your stomach and cause acid reflux. While we're on the subject of hot sauce, please stop giving hot sauce to these kids. Our parents never did that. What in the world are we doing? I have not seen so many small children asking for hot sauce. Like, wait, let me cook. Because if you cook properly, you won't need all that spicy stuff. No, our parents would dare to give us spice food. No, that's because they cooked, they knew how to cook, and they made it happen where you didn't have to go and put all that extra stuff on your food. But let me tell you something. As a person with intestinal problems, and it ain't because I used to eat improperly, but it will definitely affect them. And the way things are affecting our children early in life these days, you don't want them with these problems on their stomach. Oh my goodness. Please, please, please stop. Cook the food properly. Let them understand what food should taste like without putting on all of these added things, and let them enjoy their food and enjoy good health. Okay. I just thought I'd throw that in. All right. We're talking about foods that you should eat before you go to bed. Fatty and fried foods. Oh my. They say greasy, high-fat foods take longer to digest. Trust me, I told you. I know. It takes longer for my food to digest. If I eat certain foods, it takes longer to digest. And you don't want that before it's time for you to go to bed. Now, unlike a whole lot of other people, Pastor Steph can go to sleep. I never had that problem going to sleep. Sleep is another issue. Well, they're trying to combat that for you. They say that greasy, high-fat foods can cause bloating, discomfort, acid reflux when you lie down. And if you pay attention to when you eat and then when you lay down, watch how your stomach feels when you wake up. Yeah. So they say don't eat fast food such as burgers, fries, fried chicken, Pastor KL. And they say those things are heavy on your stomach. Cheese, heavy dishes. Wow. Macaroni and cheese, pizza, creamy pasta sauces, they say can lead to digestion issues. All right. Processed snacks, chips, and buttery popcorn are high in unhealthy fats. Remember, we talked about that popcorn when Athena was on, our health coach. And, we have some popcorn and we, eat what we're supposed to eat on it and not overdo it, we'll be all right. All right. But definitely not that bag popcorn, because that's a killer. It's good, but that's a killer. All right. Sugary treats. Don't eat sugary treats before you go to bed. They say eating high sugar foods before bed can cause blood sugar spikes, leading to energy crashes and disrupted sleep. They say they can also increase the risk of nightmares. Wow. And that's due to their effects on brain activity. Yo, you wouldn't even think that. You wouldn't think that because you ate something sugary, it could contribute to a nightmare. Wow. I haven't had a nightmare in years. Wow. What's that like? I don't want to know. No, thank you. No, thank you. See, I pray. Pray. Keep the nightmares away. All right. Well, candy and chocolate. They say sugar and caffeine make for a bad combination before you go to sleep. Ice cream. Auntie Brenda used to kill that ice cream, man. Yo, she used to love some ice cream. Anytime I think of ice cream, I always think of my aunt. Oh my goodness. You go in their refrigerator, they had like this whole array of ice cream in their freezer. Yeah, she used to love her ice cream. The sugar and dairy can lead to digestive discomfort. Pastries and desserts, cookies, cakes, and donuts can trigger sugar highs and subsequently crashes. All right. We're talking about the food that you should not eat before you go to bed. Acidic fruits. What fruits aren't acidic? They all acidic after when you think about it. They say while fruit is generally a better and more healthy choice, some acidic fruits can trigger acid reflux and discomfort before it's time to go to bed. Citrus fruits, oranges, lemons, grapefruits can cause heartburn. Well, I gotta tell y'all, I have been eating grapefruit for the past few nights. Yeah, because I get this sugar rush. I need sugar, and I have not reached for candy and cakes because we don't keep that in the house anymore. So I've been eating grapefruit, and man, those red grapefruits, they are good. But I can't eat that before I go to bed now. Oh my goodness. Pineapple, which is one of my favorite. High acidity can disrupt digestion. This might be why my stomach is toe up. Oh my goodness gracious. Tomatoes, they said found in sauces and ketchup, they can be acidic and heavy. So they say stick to low acidic fruits like bananas, apples, if you crave something sweet at night. Well, we're going to have to load up on the bananas and the apples because the grapefruit, it just hits the spot. But I noticed my stomach's been messed up. Well, here you go. Here you go. All these little things that we don't even think about. Wow. So we're talking about foods that you do not need to eat. You should never eat, they say, before going to bed. Caffeinated foods and drinks, coffee, tea, chocolate, soda, and energy drinks. Spicy foods, and that's your hot peppers, spicy curries, and hot sauces. Stop giving it to the kids. Fatty and fried foods. The fast foods such as your burgers, fries, and fried chicken. Cheese-heavy dishes, that mac and cheese and pizza. And processed snacks, them chips and that buttery popcorn. Sugary treats. Candy and chocolate. Ice cream. Pastries and desserts. Who did I just kill? Yo, listen, that's our thing. Them sugary treats. Who don't want candy and chocolate, ice cream, pastry, and desserts? Well, eat it during the day. Don't eat before it's time to go to bed because then you won't get a good night's rest, okay? And last but not least, acidic fruits. Don't eat those oranges, lemons, and grapefruits. Don't eat pineapples or tomatoes. Make sure you stick to bananas or apples before you go to bed. Yo. Okay, I'm going to let y'all know next week, God spares, if my stomach is feeling better. Because I don't eat the candy and stuff because I really have to be in the mood to eat candy. But I'm telling you, some of this other stuff on here, I definitely eat before I go to bed. And I noticed my stomach has been just messed up. So we're going to find out. Because you know what? If you go to sleep and you eat these things and it's upsetting, a lot of these things, they say, mess with your digestion. So when you wake up, it's off kilter. You're not feeling great. Well, that's because that's the way you lay down and woke up. Yeah, you ate it before you went to bed. And by you laying down, your food is not digested properly. So Man, thank God for his truth. You know, thank God. Thank God. Let's thank God. All righty. Let's see who's checked in. Good morning, AJ. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Give me a thumbs up if that list helped you. I'm interested. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know. Let me know if like something in that list applied to you and may have answered as to why your stomach may have been feeling a little jacked up lately. All right? All right. All right, it's time for news. And I got to tell you, the news was straight whack yesterday. Yeah, I don't know what we're talking about today because it was whack, 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 and then whack. I was so bored. I didn't even know what to do. It took me forever to find out something to find something that I thought, we'd be interested in. Well, I did see something that, excuse me, I thought could help us. Something that probably a lot of us already know. And there's a teacher who talks about one red flag she said that indicates that a child is going to be difficult. And it's not their behavior. Yeah, it's not their behavior. She's saying at the end of the day that one of the red flags is you, mom, or you, dad. Yeah. You, the parent, the guardian. If you come to school or you go to the school and you're one of those, no, not my child, she said that is the biggest red flag that always ends up being a mess. And I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. I believe it. I'm sure, you got Vivian, Teresa, Brother Al, they're our due time crew who are teachers. We had Ms. Crystal, or Pastor Crystal, our Pastor Nicole, Pastor Jeff's wife. She's, was a part of the due time crew. And I'm sure they will attest to this. She said it's not the kid's behavior. That's the red flag. It's when they need to call you up to the school and then find out that you are not on the same page with them. Listen, let's just stop this thing here. You know your kid is a menace to society. You know your kid is a menace to the classroom. You know your kid is a menace in that household. Stop going to school looking like an idiot. Just go to the school, take what the teacher's saying, swallow your pride. And ultimately, one of the points that she brought out that's really, really a good point is if you're like that, let me say it that in that direction. If that's the parent you are, you're not helping your child at all. It's not helping your child to become accountable for anything. No, not my child. And you do it right in front of the kid. That ain't even something that happens, behind the scenes. And even if it did happen behind the scenes, the kid would know, because now you've got no discipline. You've got no punishment. You've got no support from that parent when it comes to the kid. And that's why I tell you, thank God for teachers, because being a pastor is enough. That teacher, day in and day out, you got to be made for that thing. You got to be made for that. So there is a teacher who has, put out, in an article, please help your child by helping them become accountable for their actions. But I'm going to tell you something. A parent who doesn't help their child become accountable, that's because they're not accountable. No, because see, let me tell you what happens. In their head, it points to them. If you talk about their kid, ultimately you're talking about them and what they're not doing with their kid. So therefore, you're making them look bad. And they don't want to answer to that. Yo, listen, we can't account for everything our kids do. I was on Shantice, and she just got into some mess every once in a while. Same thing with Shawnee, same thing with Tamasia. They just got into a mess every once in a while. So did I. So did you. No matter what, our parents taught us, we tested the waters when we got out there in the street, one way or another. Some of us didn't go absolutely buck wild, but we tested the water. So you can't always determine what your child gonna do when they get out there. You just hope and pray that whatever you gave them in the house will carry on the outside of the house, and call it a day. Call it a day, and just stay on top of it. Just don't go to school cutting up. You really looking like a big idiot. Trust me. And I'm sure the parents, the teachers, that was just one teacher speaking, but I'm sure that's the general consensus of how the teachers feel and administration. What else are we talking about? Talk about accountability. Well, there is a South Carolina woman who is definitely looking to face the penalties for her misdeed. So out in Myrtle Beach, they have a wildfire, and it has been spreading and spreading and spreading. And somehow or another, they traced its origin to a woman who put some stuff on fire in her backyard, and it spread. Can you imagine? It started in her backyard and ended up spreading, and now it's become a wildfire that is out of control. Well, I don't know how they trace it. They did say that they had some video, and they had some neighbors say that this 40-year-old Alexandra, she had been seen setting some stuff on fire in her backyard. And they said that according to the arrest warrant, she did not have appropriate water readily available, nor did she have any garden tools on hand to control the fire and to prevent it from escaping her yard. And that contributed to the spread to the land owned by the Homeowners Association and went well past them. And it is now, or it was as of this moment, a wildfire. So again, that accountability, you were doing something in your backyard. Can you imagine doing something in your backyard and it has an effect on homeowners in your area? It had effect to some wildfire all over the place. That's your life. Oh, did I say that? That's your life. You think that it's only going on in your backyard. You have no idea how it's affecting everybody else around you. And then others. Yo, that's crazy. Yeah. So they have her possibly paying fines as well as possible jail time. So I know she did not anticipate spending no time in jail for this. They say that it is one of the largest among the 175 wildfires that have erupted across South Carolina. And it started in somebody's backyard. Yo, that's crazy. That is straight crazy. What else are we talking about? All right. So now this is like kind of a repeat of another story we did sometime last year. And there's a, a foster mother who had a 10-year-old little boy in Michigan, and he was acting up. And she caught him in the yard and sat on him. And she crushed him. 10-year-old little boy. She was 340 pounds. She sat on him to try to keep him still and get him to act right, get him to calm down. And she said she felt underneath her him moving, like scurrying. And then after a while, he went limp. When she got up, she's now scrambling and screaming to the other children to call 911. And it was too late. They airlifted him to a hospital, but by that time, it was too late. And that was definitely not her intent. But yo, he's 10. And I think how many pounds did they say he weighed? They said he weighed 91 pounds. And her 340 pounds on top of him. She sat between his neck and his head. And poor little thing. What a way to go. What a way to go. Listen, why is that a remedy? Why is that a remedy? Why do you feel that is a remedy? Listen, again, this happened last year, almost the same thing. Another foster parent, trying to control this kid. She said the kid had run away, and when she finally got him, he was trying to run again, and she pulled him and sat on him, and it cost him his life. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. What else are we talking about? Well, here's something that was really, really interesting. Still whack stories, but speaking of children. So in New Jersey, there's a huge uproar because there's a 14-year-old who is allegedly a cop killer. Yeah, something happened out in Newark where some kids got into a gunfire fight with some police officers. And this 14-year-old kid ended up with some semi-automatic gun. Yeah. And ended up gunning down a 26-year-old detective. And they're in an uproar because he's only 14. And out in New Jersey, they will not try him as an adult until you're 15. Yeah. And they're saying, well, if he had enough in him, because that's the thought. The thought process is they cannot try a child as an adult, and they can't sentence a child to life in prison because their minds are not developed. So their argument is, well, listen, it was developed enough to take a gun and shoot and kill. Why can't he be tried as an adult? So the uproar is also because tried as an adult, he'd automatically face 30 years for killing a cop. That's like an automatic thing in New Jersey. So he'd face 30 years automatically and possibly life. So it's 30 years to life, definitely 30 years. But as a child, they can sentence him to no more than 20 years, and he probably won't do that. So they're like, okay, well then who put the gun in his hand? Then try them and give them the 30 to life. So this is really a big thing. What do you think? What do you think? Do you think that despite the fact that he's 14 years old, he murdered someone, he murdered a detective, a cop, and he should have to face the consequences? Or he's a kid and, he just go to a juvenile detention and, do those years and then be let out. Oh, the other thing that they are really in an uproar about is because he's a kid, his records will be sealed. So later on, if he goes to apply for a job, they'll ask, if they ask, were you ever arrested? He can say no. Yeah. And they're like, what? So this will not follow him. And that's the goal. That's why they seal the record, so that it doesn't follow you, because you're a child and you shouldn't have to pay when you're 35 and 40 for what you did when you were 14 and 13. So what I want to know what you think. Please put that up in this chat room, because I'm definitely going to find out from our Due Time crew what they feel should happen, because this is something to think about. This is really something to think about. So keep in mind, they're saying, well, listen, 15, he'd be tried as an adult automatically, and he would get 30 years to life, mandatory 30. He'd have to do 30. So 30 years on 15, you'll be out at 45 at least. You'll be out at 45, and then you'll have that permanent record that you served these 30 years. But if you're 14 years old, you can get sentenced to 20, but you may not do the 20. They said he probably won't do the 20. And then when he comes out, they will seal his records, and he will never have to tell, and nobody will ever know that he was a cop killer. So I don't know what you think. What do you think? Do you think that, it's fair? Do you think it's not fair? Needless to say, the cop's family, he was only 26 years old, and mom says that he always wanted to be a cop. Always wanted to be a cop. 26 years old, another young person whose life is gone at the hands of a kid who may not ever have to face consequences for what he's done. So I don't know. Where's my Due Time crew? Let's talk to Tamika and see what she's got to say. Good morning, Tamika.
Monday morning. Good morning. How are you today?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Now, first I got to ask you, we've got these foods that you should never eat before you go to bed. Are any of these things on your list before you go to bed?
Yeah.
What's on the list? What did you fall prey to?
Well, I have learned, because my body told me, burgers and French fries. Every now and then you're busy doing stuff and it gets late, and it's like, okay,
right,
you don't want to cook. You go to the fast food restaurant. You grab, because it's something to appease the hunger. And then I find myself tossing and turning in the middle of the night, especially depending on which fast food restaurant you go to. Burgers are not really burgers anymore. So
yeah.
You have to be so very careful, of where you eat as it is, but burgers and fries, not a good idea at all.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. You've got the teacher who says, hey, you know what? The red flag for the children is not their behavior. The red flag are the parents who come up through there talking about, no, not my child, and who does not help the child to learn to be accountable for their actions. What do you say about that?
Ooh, I wish that brother Al was on for this one because he would definitely say yes. As many times as he's tried to um, listen. My job is to help you as a parent. You know, raise a good child. And if I tell your child, no, you can't do this, and you go back and say, oh, no, 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 not my baby, not my such and such, not my precious, then what is it that I'm saying? So that means your child has no rules, no guidelines, no nothing. They can just do whatever it is that they want to do. The guideline is you're supposed to wear your uniform. You decide today that you're not going to wear the uniform at all. So then he goes back and tells the parent, okay, your child came to school without a uniform. Oh, well, it's okay. Can you let him pass? Well, how many times can you let him pass? If you let him pass now in school, when he gets ready to go to work, he's going to do the same thing. Oh, yeah, well, I'm late again today. Can I get a pass for that?
That's right. That's right. That's right. Helping them be accountable helps them, like you said, to become responsible adults. So we're only stymieing our own children. So I don't know what these parents want to do. I don't know what they want to do. Let's see. We've got the mother, the what do you call it? What do you call it? The foster mother. Oh my goodness gracious. Who ended up sitting on a child and wanting to discipline him, hold him down, and ended up putting her 340 pounds on this 91-pound little boy. Was there a different way she could have gotten this done?
Absolutely. I was thinking, what about sending the child to the room? Nowadays children are plummeted with all kinds of technology, your phone, whatever it is that they have. You couldn't have done that. You decide to sit yourself on this child, and not like, we used to play when we were little, we would sit on the child, you sit the child and you sit on the child's butt, and the butt, the child is facing the chair, but you always make sure that the child's not, their face is not in the pillow. So, it's a little game, and you don't ever put all of your weight on that child. I know in my size that I'm not going to do it. You 340 pounds and you sat on this child's neck. How many times have we talked about police brutality and how they're doing things around the neck and the head, and you decide that this is what you're going to do, and so the hardship is that this child is now gone. I can't even fathom you sitting on this child and feeling the bones break, and then in addition to the child not breathing, horrible story.
Yeah, I can only imagine when she said she felt him underneath her stop scurrying, and she panicked and got up and was screaming, call 911, call 911. And that must have been some real afterthought, because it was too late at that point. Definitely too late at that point. Terrence says, if we were sitting on kids, we were just playing. We never did it by their head or neck. That's crazy and sad. So yeah, like you said, Tamika, that's not something that we did near the head or the neck, so Terrence agrees with you. Oh my goodness gracious. What else we talking about here? We're talking about this 14-year-old who they say, I was trying to find how many they gave, how much gunfire. Was trying to find it, and it was quite a few. And now they are not charging him as an adult, and the family, as well as the people in New Jersey, are in an uproar, and they're saying, well, listen, as a child we can only give him 20 years, and he may not do those 20 years, and he's going to get his record sealed. So nobody will ever know that he committed this crime and he killed a cop or anybody. And if he were to get the adult sentence, he'd do at least 30 years. And people would know what he did. He's be 45 when he comes out of jail, at least 45, if you want to give him just the minimum of the sentence. And this is really causing a big uproar in, the town of Newark. What's your thoughts? Should he be sentenced as an adult or charged as an adult and get that sentence? Or should they err on the side of, you're only 14, your brain has not developed. Yeah, you use this automatic weapon, but we can't charge you. What's your thought?
I think that this is one of those, we just finished talking about a child getting passed by, and here we are. I understand that he's 14. Okay, so how long are you going to keep saying, okay, just let him pass till he's 30, 40, 50, 90? I just feel like, he did the crime. You were big enough to have this weapon. One of the things that I don't like about, our penal system is that there's not a reckoning, somebody to come in and really educate you as to what it is that you've done. It's to punish the crime, not necessarily to set you straight and help you understand, so you end up growing in a penal system, and either you continue on the way that you are, or you're reformed by those that are there or those that come to see you, which is the sad part. We need that essence within our penal system so that our children do have somebody to go to and educate them for what they have. The other thing that I'm looking at, okay, he didn't just walk off and just decide this on his own. He was exposed to somebody that taught him how to use a weapon, how you don't just wake up one morning and just decide to shoot. And so it's funny that that person gets unscathed as well. So you actually are not just letting this person go by, but the people or person that he was exposed to that showed him how.
Absolutely. I found it, Tamika. They say he unloaded a stream of 29 bullets. 29 from this automatic weapon.
No, man. So, yeah.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's say good morning to our Pastor KL. And while he's coming on, let's see what the room has to say. Shanti says he should get the max for kids and not have records sealed. Maybe if a cop didn't die, they could have sealed the teen's record. Terrence says that's another sad story, but if he killed a black kid, they would be going this hard if it were a black kid. They'd be looking to hang him. And Renee says, good morning, Renee. Thank you for joining us this morning. Renee says the problem is that these kids think life is like the video games. They've been desensitized to real life. Absolutely. Absolutely. Good morning, Pastor KL.
Good morning, ladies. How you ladies doing?
How are you?
Morning.
I'm well.
Good, and good. All righty. Well, we've got some news stories, and we've got a teacher that says, you know what? There's some red flags when it shows that a child is going to be difficult, but it's not their behavior. It's the parent. The parent that comes along and says, no, not my child. And they don't support the school. They let their children off. And now they have difficulty with the students. What say you? Do you agree?
Well, definitely. The school is the new babysitter. I'm tired. I need a break. So go to school. Whether you do good in school or not, you out of my hair for at least 8 hours. And like you just said, it's a learned behavior. If I'm ratchet at home, my child is ratchet in the street, because that's all that I know is ratchetness. You can't expect me now to go to school and be professional, go to school and sit still and be quiet when I'm slapping my little brother every 5 seconds. Or you ever see those children who talk to their little siblings like they're their mother? Put it down. I said no. So they become the new mother. You know what I mean? They become the babysitter. So now when they go out, they let their hair down because
Right.
there is no responsibility for them. And the teacher, quote unquote, you're not my mother. I can do what I
Right.
want to do. I'm on
Right.
vacation for 8 hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And she really talks about this behavior from the parent, that it's also done right in front of the child.
Right, right.
So it's not even done, in private. And now you've got the child watching all of this go on. So yeah, you're going to have this problem, especially if you're exposing the child to how you're dealing with the situation. So I don't know. I don't know. We also have the story of the foster mother who was trying to settle the little 10-year-old boy down, and she decided to grab him and sit on him, and sat on him around his neck and head area, and I guess ended up subsequently suffocating him. And how do you deal with charging her with this crime, this unintended crime?
Well, it's still murder is still murder, no matter how you do it. If you kill me, whether it's vehicular manslaughter, if I died, I died. The person in the car does not mean to run over a pedestrian, even if the pedestrian got in the way. Murder is murder. So I think they should be going to jail for a long time. First of all, obviously, you couldn't be a foster child if you think the way to subdue the child is to sit on them. Now I don't know. I got a lot of beatings, but I never got sat on by my parents. That just was not the answer. You know, we never went in the corner. We never had time out. We never got sat on.
Mhm.
We just got beat. Where everybody is now cringing at the belt. The belt worked.
Mhm.
The belt was their friend. It wasn't a friend of mine, but I learned quick. You didn't have to suffocate me. Listen, after
Mhm.
you beat me and no more cry could come out, I was suffocated.
Remember, we used to cry so hard there was no noise,
Right,
there was no
right.
sound. Yes,
Right.
you be crying your heart out, man, and
Listen,
there's no sound coming out your mouth.
after the air, then all of a sudden you had some sound come out.
Oh, goodness me. Woo. Well, we're talking about accountability. So you have this 14-year-old in New Jersey who, by way of 29 bullets from an automatic weapon, he ended up killing a 26-year-old detective. And now they're having this big debate over how he needs to be charged. Should he be charged, they're asking, as a 14-year-old child who will be sentenced to 20 years, but will probably not do the 20 years, and his his records will be sealed. So later on down the line, if someone were to ask him on an application, or during an interview, have you ever been arrested or served any time, he could literally say no, because there's nothing that proves that he has. Or charge him as a 15-year-old and an adult, because that's from 15 years and above, they can charge you as an adult. And if they charge you as an adult, it isn't for cop killing, it is automatic 30 years to life. So he would have to do a minimum of 30 years. And of course, his records would not be sealed. And they're like, well, listen, at 30 years, he'll be 45. He'll still have an opportunity to live his life. He'll be living his life as a cop killer. But He'll still have a chance to live his life. And it's not fair. It's not fair at all that he does not have to face the consequences of his actions. What's your thought?
Life, 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 life. I mean, first of all, listen. You thought this thing through. You shot 29 times. Now, I'm sure it didn't take 29 bullets to kill this man. You just kept on shooting 29 times. First of all, it's funny because now everybody wants to give, credence to he's a child. So there's no more mental issues no more. You know what I'm saying? We've been fighting mental issues. That he thought that thing through. He needs to go to jail forever. Listen, so let's just say, Pastor Steph at 14 years old, she got pregnant. You doing adult things. You have to take the responsibility of being an adult for the rest of all your child's life. At 14, there's no she was 14. Let's not do nothing with the kid. The kid is coming. Right. That's the reality. No matter how old you are, these children who want to have children now they have to play adults. It's no longer dressing up the baby, the doll baby. This is real people. When you want to play Mortal Kombat and you want to play all these games on your video game, and then you want to come out and reenact it, this is for real. You can't turn off the TV and change the game. Right. This is the game you play.
Right. Very much so. Very much so. We got a comment from Terrence. I do agree with the teacher. He's going back to the teacher's story because the kids learn from their parents before they go to school. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, all righty. Well, thank you for indulging me on our news stories. So our topic of conversation today in our Relationship Monday, they're talking about how ironic small issues with a couple that turn into big issues. Boy, are we not talking about that today in our news? Everything we talked about was small things that, if not handled properly, would turn into big issues. Well, that was definitely not planned. But one of the things they're talking about, a small issue that turns into big issues in a marriage, splitting the housework 50-50. Tamika, would you agree? And if so, why or why not?
Disagree. Because there's in every marriage, one person's going to do something better than the other, and you hand, let's just say the bills, for instance, to him, and he's not good with money. Now you got a problem, or mopping the floor, and one person is just better at it. One person is just better at cooking, and you splitting it half and half. Sometimes one person is going to do more than the other, and that's okay. But as for, or if I give you something that you can't stand to do, then I got to wait for it to get done. And then I got to create what we as wives call a honey-do list. After creating the honey-do list, now I'm nagging you because last week you didn't do it. This week you didn't do it. There's always give and take. And you have to be able to have that little flexibility that when it doesn't get done, okay, fine. Are we just going to sit here and let piles of dirt get up underneath that rug because you don't want to sweep the whole floor? You just sweat everything up under the rug? 50-50 is probably not going to work.
Okay. So that is a small issue that will turn into a big issue.
Absolutely.
Later on. Okay. Pastor KL, what say you? Splitting the housework 50-50, is that a small issue that turns out to be a big issue later?
Definitely. And I've learned it firsthand. My wife was horrible with money. She's gotten a lot better. And one day my daughter came, well, not one day, 2:00 in the morning, my daughter came and said, hey, somebody taking the car. And I'm like, somebody taking the car? And then it was the repo man taking the car. And I'm like, well, why are we taking this car? And then finally she said, well, I was paying for the kids this, and I was doing this, and I forgot. How you forget a car though? So that could be a problem, because now I got to get to work. And then when the repo man comes, they don't tell you where they repo in your car to. So now you gotta find your car. And then they don't repo your car down the block. So it's usually in a whole nother area. Now you gotta get there. So yeah, that becomes a big problem. Also, I told y'all I don't go outside, so I don't do yard work. So my trees, my grass could look like Jumanji, and now she mad because I'm not going out there cutting it. So yeah, it becomes an issue. Like Tamika said, you have to see what you're best at, what your best practices are, and then it may not always be 50-50, because I may do 60% stuff better than you do. So I might be able to, I will just have to handle that. In order for this house to run, this relationship to run, I just got to do the 60. I can't be mad at the 50-50, because you give them an extra 10%, and that 10% is going down because they're not good at it, but because you want to split everything up to make it seem fair. It ain't fair when you got to go back and find your car. That ain't fair.
I want to know, how outdated is that, splitting the housework 50-50? Because like you both said, boy, that sure does not work. We don't, no one has this list that everyone can stick by. So something to think about. Another thing that they've got on here is assuming the rough patch is the end of the world. That's a small thing that turns out to be a big thing. Tamika, is that true?
You fly off the handle with everything. I can't talk to you about anything that is a definite problem. And relationships, one of the major things that make it work is communication. And if I can't come to you about the slightest thing, and every time I say something to you, oh gosh, you falling out, fainting on the floor, or you slamming doors and flinging stuff, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
All I said was such and such and such, and I can't communicate with you, then what's the purpose? We are in our years of, you want to be able to be with this person for lifelong, and if in year 2 or if in year 5 you can't communicate, that's a sign. You either need to work on it or decide what you want to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. Pastor KL, they say assuming that a rough patch is the end of the world ends up going from a small to a big problem.
Well, it depends on what the small is to certain people. Because when you took my car, it was the end of the world. And I was ready to go get the papers myself. You signing these papers today. After I get my car back, you signing these divorce papers. It's certain things is the end of the world for you. Because my thing is this. Now, I can't get to work. And I can't pay to get this car out of the pound if I can't get to work. Not only that, y'all don't realize that when your car gets repoed, everything that you owe, you have to pay it. You have to pay it to get your car.
Right. That's right.
So you have to pay
one payment.
Yeah, you have to pay that payment, and there's no what you call it. There's no you can't make a payment plan to get your car. You got to get your car, so you got to pay the company, and then you got to pay the people who impounded it, because it sits there and it racks up per day. So those is like, it's only a car, it's only materialistic stuff. Now you put me in a financial bind. So that's the problem. And then what does that take away from the main house? Because now everything that I had that went from the house, now I have to rob Peter to pay Paul so I can get this.
Right. Something essential.
Right.
Essential. That could have been handled a lot better earlier. And
here
we are.
If, like Tamika said, if you just communicated, hey, I'm a little short this month.
Right.
Can you help me with this? You know what I mean? But you thought that you can keep on turning stuff over and it will work. But no, it don't work. Something is not going to get paid.
Right. Right. Terrence says, I agree with all of the Due Time crew. Absolutely. Let me ask you something. Let's stay here for a quick second. What is another rough patch that seems like it's small but could be a big thing?
When you get married, or when you're with someone who has children, because when you play both the mother and father, though you want a father figure, they don't really want you to be the father. They don't want you to be disciplinary because it looks different. You know what I mean? So now I can pay, but I can't play, or I can pay, but I can't say. You know what I mean? I can't say nothing, but I can pay for everything. So that becomes a problem. Is either you want me to be 100% in their life, or go get their baby daddy and tell them to pay child support and come get them to take them to the park.
And that definitely becomes a biggie. You know, I've seen a lot of women who want this whole husband and father and family dynamic, but you can't say nothing to the kid. And
Right.
I'm like, well, how does that work? You don't want him to say nothing to the don't take nothing to the, I'll discipline them. But he's right here. He's not going to overlook this situation. He shouldn't be expected. You should have thought about this before you got into this relationship. You had the child before you got into the relationship, and you know whether you want somebody to talk to your kid or not. You already know this. This ain't nothing that's going to pop up out the clear blue sky. And that is a good example. That is a good example of something small turning into something huge. And now we've got this massive issue because we didn't take care of this early enough. Serge, I agree with the answer. Crazy thing is, I just had the same conversation with a colleague regarding this 50-50. Okay. All right. So Serge says, out the window with the 50-50. All righty. Good example, Pastor KL. What else? Staying up to resolve an argument, even if it takes all night. Wow. Wow. Okay,
No, ma'am.
so...
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm in the bed at 5 o'clock. If you can't get what you need to get in between now and 4:45, it'll be continued tomorrow. I'm not a person who gets mad. You know how they say, well, don't go to sleep mad. Okay, you mad. I ain't mad. Whatever you feel is what you feel. We will resolve it tomorrow. I got real life work to do tomorrow. You know what I mean? And if I allow my emotions to keep me up all night, then I am not productive tomorrow. And then if I'm not productive tomorrow and I get fired, that's a whole nother argument. That's an argument for me, and there's an argument for you because I can't pay the things that I need to pay. So you need to let me go to sleep.
Wow. All right. How many of you in this chat room believe that, you know what, if it takes all night, we need to stay up and talk about this thing? The Bible says don't let the sun go down on your wrath and all this kind of stuff. And how does that apply to you? So how do you put that into perspective with what you're saying, Pastor KL?
Well, okay. Again, I'm not upset. Just because I have a disagreement with you does not make me upset, because we could agree to disagree. And a lot of times, no matter how long you stay up, first of all, fatigue starts to get at you. So you become even more frustrated at the answer when they don't agree with you. Saying, oh, well, it doesn't seem like it's coming to a common ground. So now both y'all are more, so you're in a worse place at 2 o'clock in the morning than you was at 5 o'clock in the evening. So no. You can be upset. I got plenty of rooms. Go in the living room, go in another bedroom. And sometimes you got to decompress because you're so caught emotionally on why they're not agreeing with you and how it's unfair because they don't agree with you. You don't look at it from the other side. Well, maybe he's right. Maybe she's right. You don't want them to be right. You just want to be right. And you don't care if it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. you're gonna agree with me. But listen, how many ways are you explaining this? You can't change it to make me believe it 3,000 times. You're gonna constantly repeat yourself. And I've heard you the first 12 times. Why do I need to be subjected by this same monologue, by this same dialogue until 2 in the morning?
It's a lot to be said. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Your wrath. Or like you said, are you angry? Are you mad? There are some times where we just have to step away from something. I agree 100%. And talking about it and talking about it and talking about it becomes extremely exhausting. You're not getting anywhere. You're still standing your ground. I'm still standing my ground. And sometimes, just stepping away and going before the Lord, asking God to clear you up as well as the other person up, and just expose it to me, God, if I'm not understanding him or her, if I'm not getting what is being said. Because sometimes we think we're so right that, like you said, we don't even hear the argument. We don't even hear logic, because all we got is just our mind made up, our mind set up on something. And sometimes it just takes, you go east, I go west. God spares, we'll meet in the center in the morning or tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, and then we'll resume the conversation. But you really, sometimes I agree, just that same conversation going on and on and on and on and on, and you ain't budging and I'm not budging. I'm sorry, I can't be up all night talking about the same thing. I don't care how important we feel this is, but as if we're not mad, then I do agree we should be able to step away from the table and come back and be able to
And you know
resolve.
what up? You know what up, Pastor Steph? Sometimes we become so petty that we finally hear it, that the other side is better, and we still ain't gonna let go. I
Sometimes, yeah,
refuse.
sometimes
I
people are like
refuse to
that.
be wrong. Saying she refuses to be wrong. So now what we doing? So if you got in your mind that okay, she's right, but I ain't gonna let her know she's right. You know what I mean? So we're still in the same boat.
Right, right. Because there's some people that live by that creed. I
Right.
ain't gonna be wrong no matter what.
Right.
And that there, you ain't never gonna get nowhere. I agree 100%. Terrence says to you, Pastor KL, says Pastor KL is still mad about that car. I see it.
I don't even have that car anymore, Terrence. They repoed it. I never got it back. Nah. But I don't have that
Oh
car
my
anymore.
goodness. So you never got the car back?
Yeah, I did. But I don't have it anymore. It was an old car.
Okay. My goodness. All righty. He says, I still love you though. I still love you. All righty. So we got this other issue that they say starts off small and ends up big. When you're trying to mind read, or you expect your partner to mind read, that's a small issue that becomes a big issue. What say you about that, Pastor KL?
Yeah, the big word is called assumption. When they assume that you knew what they was talking about, they assume that you knew my feelings. That's a problem. You have to communicate. I've learned with a lot of folks. You mad at folks, and I'm not talking to folks, and these folks don't even know you mad at them. They still living their life. Not only that, they don't even care that you're mad at them. You have not. The Bible says, if you have an art with your brother, go to him. You know what I mean? You have not even went to him and say, hey, this is an issue. You hurt my feelings, or I thought you would have understood that this is what I needed you to do. And now that they didn't do it because they didn't know this is what you needed them to do, you mad. But you're holding that and you're not even expressing it. So then when it happens again, he or she's going to do the same thing because he doesn't know or she doesn't know what you expect out of them.
I have a question for you, Pastor KL, because this seems to be the thing to do these days. where somebody does something or says something that I don't like, and I do not address it right away because I can't talk about it right now because I need a chance to calm down. So now 2-3 days go by, and now you decide to address it, and now it takes a whole new life because of the time. And now they don't like what you said, so they're going to take another 2-3 days because they need a chance to calm down and get themselves together. And now you got a week and a half that then took place. Still nothing's resolved because nobody feels that they can talk about this thing. Because if I talk right now, I just may not say the right thing. What's your take on that?
Well, the reason why I think not addressing it right away, because I used to be like that, is that it gives you time to embellish the situation. Meaning that it could have just been something simple that yeah you was annoyed with, but now you go back. Well, yeah, I remember last year. Man, she did it. Maybe she was feeling that way last year too. It gives you a chance to add stuff to the story, and then it puts it into your mind and in your heart. Oh, she ain't never really liked me anyway. She never had my back anyway. I remember when I asked her for $2, she said she ain't have it. I bet you she had them $2. It gives you time, just to sit back and run things through your mind, run different scenarios, run what happened. Remember when I babysat her children? She didn't bring no food over. I had to feed her children. You think she would have said thank you? Simple stuff like that. I didn't even get a thank you. She didn't even bring no water with her. Stuff like that. So you need to address it right there while it's fresh, because then you deal with what you deal with. You deal with what you see. When you wait, you get to deal with what you saw. You know what I mean? You go back from last year Christmas. You know what I mean? Where that Christmas gift? Why I never saw you wear that? Da. It's a whole bunch of stuff that you get a chance to embellish the situation.
Interesting thought. Shanti says not addressing things right away is bogus. So immature, leaves way too much room for things to fester, which is kind of what you're saying, Pastor KL, because you're right. Now that people don't understand the enemy along with your own flesh and spirit. It is a dangerous combination. See, we can't put everything on the enemy because it starts with us. The enemy can't do nothing with us that we don't allow him to do with us. And when we are dealing with this, I'm not talking because I don't understand Christian people. They see, here we go. And I told you a long time ago, a couple of years ago, as a matter of fact, 6 months into It's Due Time, God told me I'm not talking to the sinner through you more than I'm talking to those who are called my people. And I can't understand Christian people who fall on, well, I just don't want to say nothing because if I say something, it ain't gonna come out right. What happened to prayer? What happened to going before the Lord? What happens to, what? I always advise my congregation, we have to have tough conversations on a regular. Go before the Lord and ask God to deal with you and to deal with them before you even get to the conversation. Let God put those words in your mouth. And you can do this thing. I can wait 4-5 days before I say anything because I don't know what to say. And I used to have people say that to me years ago. And I'm like, well, I'm lost here. How is it that we don't know what to say and we're supposed to be people of God? So then what do we expect for the other people to do? And we don't know what to say. Then what do we expect people who don't know God, the non-believer, to be able to say or do if we don't know how to address things? And we just make a mess of stuff all the time. Shanti says, then don't let it come out right. Tell me. She said, thank God for addressing and checking us when he does. And I don't want anyone looking at me knowing there's something they really want to say.
But you know what? Listen. So watch this. The enemy can never do what the enemy doesn't allow.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's
You
right.
know, so that's
That's right.
what it is. You know, if you allow it, if the inner you allows it, the enemy go play with it. Listen, a
That's
man
right.
or woman can't take advantage of you unless you let them take advantage of you.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's what I said. I agree. I said the same thing. The enemy can't do nothing with you that you don't allow him to do with you. You
Hmm.
have to give him access to get to you. You've got to be able to say, you know what? Go ahead. Let me do what the Lord would have me to do. And there are so many scriptures that speak of addressing. And I don't know whether it was you or Tamika in this, conversation today that spoke of the Bible verse, that speaks of that. If your brother has aught, then
Yes,
go
yes.
to him.
Hmm.
It was you. It was you. But here's the thing. The Bible, it says if there could be a possibility,
Right.
go to them. That's not even something that is definite. That's if
Hmm.
there's something. So you lose your argument when you know that there's something wrong.
Right.
Because the Bible tells us if you think that there's something wrong, go take care of that business and leave your offering. Don't leave no offering for me. I can't
Hmm.
accept your offering when you haven't even made it right with your
Right.
brother or sister. When you're looking right at these people and you can't take care of your business, because at the end of the day, it's my business. It's not your business. So I just wanted to ask you, we're talking about little things with couples that fester into big things. And, what we do with this stuff or what we don't do with this stuff, we got a couple of minutes. What's one other thing?
Hold on one second. You know, let me just piggyback on what you said. For all of you who are out there, I need y'all to get y'all art together because y'all owe me and Pastor Steph some offerings. So I need y'all to get it together, okay? y'all holding up my money.
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness. What is there some other area that is small that we make big because either we do or we don't in a relationship?
Yeah, when you give the baby daddy or the baby mama more priority than the husband or wife. You know, your baby daddy can't run my house. Your baby mama can't run my house. You know, if you guys could have worked, then it would have been you guys that I would not have had the opportunity. You know, so when you say, "Oh, Charles said you should do this with Tommy," no, Charles don't live here. Now, when Charles has his weekend with Tommy, Charles can do whatever he want to do with Tommy. But in my house, this is what we gonna do. And a lot of times we can't get detached from our previous relationship to move on with our present relationship.
Wow. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Like you said, you know what? When they have the child, if that's the way they wish to run it, but you can't have any outside sources helping you run your house.
Right.
That is definitely going to be a huge mess. Renee says everyone pulls extra weight at one point or another in a relationship. Absolutely, which is why we can't do this 50-50 thing, because at one point you're going to have to just kind of extra step something and somebody's going to have to fall back off of something just for logistic purposes. Maybe somebody's got more to do at work. Maybe somebody's got less to do at work. So now I'll pick up the slack here because I'm not doing as much at work. These are the type of things that we need to do instead of this 50-50 business. Shantice, Pastor KL, Shantice says, Jesus paid it all. So I guess they don't owe us any money. I guess they don't owe us any money.
I'm still paying mortgage.
So am I. And so I guess we're going to put our pennies together and make it happen. Third says Pastor KL is on it today. So, all right, Pastor KL. Thank you so much for
Yes,
your
ma'am.
contribution to today's conversation, and we pray you have a blessed day.
You as well. You as well.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, it is Monday morning, the top of the hour, as I always like to call it, and it is time for the switch with Shantice. So let's say good morning to Shantice.
Good morning, Pastor Steph.
Good morning, Shantice. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Amen. I'm okay, thank you. What you got for us today?
Okay, today we got the switch with Shantice, where we are making the switch from the streets to our godly seat. And our switch tip 215 for this week is stop settling. Now, when we think about settling for less, there are a few definitions that come up. We all know about settling when it comes to lawsuits and, anything law-wise. When you go in and, we compromise. Oh, there's actually another word that we will be talking about this morning. And instead of going through this whole long trial, we just come to an agreement as to what's going to be done and what's going to be paid, so on and so forth. But when we're talking about stop settling today for this week, we're talking about settling for less in life. And when you think about that, you have to accept something that is not as good or fulfilling as what you truly want or deserve. And I was criticized a few weeks ago for Googling definitions and then passing it on as something that it really is. But thanks to the Lord, I can comprehend. I always tell the story about how I dropped out of college 3 times, and I was always in remedial math, and math just made me want to put a bullet in my head sometimes. But when it came to English, ELA, reading and comprehension, God always made sure I was on point. And I do understand that you can't just Google everything and follow it. This is why the comprehension, the understanding is so important. So people think that they be telling you about yourself and they really be showing how slow they are. So settling for less, to accept something that is not good or fulfilling as what you truly want or deserve. And I just went through that whole real quick because you have to make sure that what you're looking up, even biblically, is something that you understand and it makes sense with what God is giving you. Okay. So when we're talking about settling for less, we're talking about compromising. To compromise is to accept standards that are lower than desirable. And we cannot follow the standards that we give ourselves, because the standards we give ourselves come from our flesh, which is very wicked and nasty and lustful and evil and so ungodly. It is the complete opposite of God. Our standards on our own are in complete alignment with the streets. God's standards for us are the complete opposite of the streets. It is the complete opposite of our flesh. So those are the standards that we need to make sure that we are not willing to lower. And God has been having to check me a lot, because it is very easy. Oh, what's going on back here? Wait. How I do that? Pastor Steph? Is because I said something good? Okay. When, it's real easy as time goes on, and this 2 Timothy 3, I'm gonna come back and make sure I got the verses right. But when God tells us in 2 Timothy about the way we are going to be during the last days, during the end times, lovers of ourselves, boastful, arrogant, irreconcilable, just filthy, disgusting, and he tells people to stay away from us. I don't know about y'all, but I don't want God to be like, you see that one over there with the locks? Yeah, you see her, the glasses? Stay away from her. I don't want God to have to tell people that about me. I don't know about y'all, but I want God to say, you see her over there, I'm gonna send her to you because I'm giving her something to you, or I'm gonna send you to her because I need you to help her. I'm giving you something for her. That's what I want God to say. But when we're taking God's standards and morals and trashing them because we are willing to accept less for momentary gain, for something that's only going to satisfy us for not even 5 minutes. Once upon a time, God allowed us to feel good and settled for 5 minutes of sin. I don't know about y'all, but the pleasures of my sins are becoming more and more short-lived when I think about it from even last month, not even years ago. So we have to make sure that we're not compromising. Don't compromise. Don't accept standards that are lower than what God desires for you. And this, again, there's a verse that says, Lord, please replace my desires with your desires for me, because our desires are very jaded, they're very twisted, they're very momentary, they're very temporary. But we have to focus on the desires that God has for us. For if we go on willfully and deliberately sinning after receiving the knowledge of the truth, there no longer remains a sacrifice to atone for our sins. That is no further offering to anticipate, but a kind of awful and terrifying expectation of divine judgment and the fury of a fire and burning wrath, which will consume the adversaries, those who put themselves in opposition to God. And that is taken from Hebrews 10:26-27. And with reading this verse again, but a kind of awful and terrifying expectation of divine judgment and the fury of a fire and burning wrath, which will consume the adversaries being those who put themselves in opposition to God. So when we think about an adversary, we automatically think about the devil. Well, it says right here that the adversary is someone who puts themselves opposite to God, which means we make ourselves equal to the devil. I hope y'all caught that, because that's deep. That's deep. And that's what happens when we accept things that are lower, that are trash, that are garbage. And that includes people. When we take on people who are garbage, and no, it's not good to talk about people and talk, but let's just call it for what it is, okay? When you're trash, you're trash. Even when you got to say it to yourself, even when you have to admit it to yourself. I've said to God a lot of times, God, I feel like I'm trash. If I could put myself in a garbage bag and sit me on a curb, but when they come here, I would. And let God check that. Let God show you, if you really are, and how to come up out of that. He doesn't see us as trash. And he doesn't want us to act according to that. But we make ourselves equivalent to the devil. And the devil already has his fate. This is why he's going hard to make us equivalent to him, because he wants to take as much of us down with him when that time comes. So whenever we settle, we might as well look over to the devil and say, hey, friend, you ready to go to hell? Let's go, because that's what we're doing. God wants the best for me is something that we need to make sure that we're saying out loud all the time. God wants the best for me. For I know the plans and thoughts that I have for you, says the Lord, plans for peace and well-being and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. And that is taken from Jeremiah 29:11, Amplified Version. And with reading this, I hear my pastor mommy, Pastor Steph, told me for years, all my life, like off and on, like, Shanti, you just take yourself through things. And it doesn't mean that things weren't done to me. It doesn't mean that I didn't internalize things, but I just always seem to find a way. If I got paid for the amount of things that I put myself through, the amount of times I lowered my standards so that I can take on something that was desirable to me, I'd have a whole lot of money. Remember last week I was like, sometimes I check my account and I only got the two little numbers that's on the top right and ain't nothing on the big numbers on the left. Yeah, I would have a whole lot of money, you know, if I was to do that, and if I was to get paid for that. And it's like, why am I not going for the plans that God has for me? This is why we need to stop leaning to our own understanding. Wasn't that the switch tip for last week? Because the plans we have for ourselves are trash. A lot of the times, even when they are good and they seem so blissful, they will never compare to the plans that God has for us. So God wants the best for me is something that we need to be saying out loud every morning. God chooses to wake us up right after we tell the Lord, I am not willing to compromise. Do not settle, but excel. Excel is to be exceptionally good at or proficient in an activity or subject. So let's break it down. We're breaking these big words down. Excelling is to be exceptional, unexpectedly good at being an expert or skillful in an activity or subject. That's what God wants. Anything that he gives us. And last week we spoke about reaching for more. But whatever God gives us, we need to sit with God, make sure we understand it, and make sure we give our very best to it. That's excelling. 2 Peter 1 verses 3-7 in the Message version reads, everything that goes into a life of pleasing God has been miraculously given to us by getting to know personally and intimately the one who invited us to God, which is Jesus, the best invitation we ever received. We were also given absolutely terrific promises to pass on to you, your tickets to participation in the life of God after you turned your back on a world corrupted by lust. So don't lose a minute in building on what you've been given, complementing your basic faith with good character, spiritual understanding, alert discipline, passionate patience, reverent wonder, warm friendliness, and generous love, each dimension fitting into and developing the others. That is what it means to be unexpectedly skillful at anything God gives you. So we need to make sure we're making the switch from compromising from what God has for you, the plan God has for you. Stop accepting lower than what God has for you, and making sure you're excelling and making sure that you are not settling. Thank you, Pastor Steph.
Thank you, Shantice. Thank you. Stop settling.
Yes.
Yes. Amen. Thank you so much for your contribution into today's conversation. And we pray you have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get that benediction. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you and give 4 through 26. Wow. So we capped off our morning with stop settling. Stop settling, period. You know, we talked about this young boy who committed this murder, who was very aware of what he was doing. Did he know that he would definitely kill someone? No, but he was setting out to do so. He was dead. That was definitely his thing. And when you think about stop settling, you cannot bundle a rule like that. You can't bundle all of the cases like that. Stop settling for everything being the same. There is nowhere in the world that a young kid, whether he was 14 or 15, there's a reason why they started trying these people as adults. You know, if you went through some psych eval and they determined that you were okay, then you need to eat every bit of those 30 years. Thank God that at 15, 30 years means 45. And at 45, God spares your life. You know, you got a second chance. You know, put him in a program while he's there. Don't throw him with the adults and leave him there. Stop settling for this is just it, because it's not cookie cutter. Nothing in our life is cookie cutter. You know, we talked about all of the little things that go on in a relationship that explode and become big issues. Stop settling. And that's what happens and provokes us into these issues that are small but then become big, because we've settled already. We've accepted. We've put that to the side. We've accepted. We've put that to the side. And now we don't tolerate anything. We don't tolerate that. Everything becomes a big thing because I let it, go back in the day. I let it go 2 weeks ago. I let it go in my other relationship. I let it go with this other person. I let it go in my past, and I'm not going to let it go anymore. Stop settling. Yeah, there's a level of settling there because you're settling into your own way of thinking. Lean not to your own understanding. Settle into God's way. Yesterday, last night, we prayed for obedience to God's will. And you can apply all of that, every story we've talked about today, to that very prayer. Obedience to God's will. You can apply it to the woman who sat on the little boy. You can apply it to, the kid who they're trying to figure out what they need to do with him. You can apply that to the conversation that we had with, turning the little things in a relationship into big things. It can be applied. You just got to put your mind to it. It all comes down to leaning not to your own understanding. Every single child should not be treated the same way because this is what they did, or this is because this is their age. So now you can't treat him like you've treated others because his brain has not developed. Well, who says that? Stop settling. When we go to God for everything, we don't settle. When we go to God for everything, then God will give us exactly how we are to handle each and every single issue. I always say to people, when it comes to your relationship, the Word of God, the Bible will teach you how to love every man. But your direct relationship with God will teach you how to love your man. Because despite the fact that we have a template in this Word of God, your man is your man. He's been through different things. So it has to be customized to how we handle that particular man. It's almost like your children. You can't handle two children the same. It's funny. We're looking at a set of twins who are 8, and they could be more different. Twins couldn't be more different. When I hear the stories or when I look at them, even their body structure is different. Their features are different. Their mind, thinking, their behavior is different. So you can't treat everybody the same. We know that there's a template that the Bible gives us as to how we raise children. However, it needs to be customized when you're dealing with your particular child. Because Shantice just got finished saying that no matter what, all her life I've been saying to her, girl, you just find your way to just bring problems on yourself. Why? How do you put yourself through this stuff? I haven't had to say that to my other daughters. I've had to say other things to them that I haven't had to say to Shantice. So you can't boilerplate this thing. So stop settling. Because when you settle, everything becomes exactly the same. You must seek God for every single thing you do. I don't care what it is. And it's something that I can attest to because God had to deal with me recently, because I'm the type of person, when I hear something, I automatically know what to do and what not to do with it. And the Lord had to check me and say, stop. I need you to stop. Even though you know what to do, I need you to still come and consult me as to how, the intricacies as to how to do this thing, as to how to handle it. When people talk to Pastor Steph, they talk to me as though I'm everybody else. And when I say to them, well, no, I can't do this, or no, I'm sorry, the Lord didn't dealt with me, or no, the Lord didn't told me this, or no, I can't do that. I don't care what everybody else does. I don't care how everybody else sees it. Stop settling. Stop settling. Your life is your life. Your life is what God is dealing with. He is dealing with you as an individual. He is dealing with you as an individual. You are not like your sister. You're not like your mama. You're not like your friend. I don't care how much you have in common. You are not them, and God needs to deal with you. That is why it is so crucial that we have a relationship with the Lord, because that relationship will definitely help us to connect to God in a special way where we learn how to do things that He wants you to do. Period. 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 And when we don't, and we batch up this thing and we settle for, que sera, sera. It is what it is. Oh, that's the way everybody else does it. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. That switch tip don't settle, man. It may seem as though it's like this big, but it is like so massive because we settle in so many different ways. When you say to yourself, I'm not taking this from my husband because my mother took it and I watched what she went through and I'm not going to go through that like she did. That may not be for you. Mom may have experienced that because of mom's life and mom's decisions. But God may have something very different for you. God may have something for you to give to your husband that mom didn't have to give to hers. So you can't settle into this thought process of, listen, I ain't taking it. I don't care what happens. It's still, I'm not saying take abuse. Pay attention. I don't want people to say, well, Pastor Steph said, no. What I'm saying is consult God. Because had you consulted God before you got married, you probably wouldn't be going through a whole lot of stuff that you're going through. So, all right, hate to tell you that way, but it is what it is. But stop settling. Seek God for everything you do. And if you seek God for everything you do, you won't settle. Because God is going to give you that special assignment in everything. You ain't going to have no time to settle. There'll be no room. There'll be no room to settle for anything. Good or bad, right or wrong. It'll be God who will get you through everything, every step of the way. I'm so tired of hearing what you compare yourself to everybody else. Well, my cousin did it this way. So you know what? And they told me that that's how they got it done. So therefore, that's how I get it done. I don't care. What did God say? What did God? I know everybody does it this way. When people have, a party, they do these things and they worry about this and they worry about that. No. What did God say for you? Stop settling for what God has given everybody else or the others around you. That's settling if that's not what God has for your life. So pay attention to everything that goes on for you. And that's the only way you're going to make up in your mind not to settle. Trust me when I tell you. Okay? All right. Well, I'm always shouting out our craft corner. Our girl Nicole, look. Wait. It's over here. Wait. It's different. Yeah, it's due time with Pastor Steph here on my sweatshirt, and I got the same logo here on my cup. Yeah, see? Same color and everything. Yes. That's how Pastor Steph gets it done. So if you don't go to Craft Corner for the items that our girl Nicole has, you can always go to It's Personalized for your embroidery needs. And you can wear anything that the Lord says that can be done. Yeah, can't wear everything. Nope, can't wear everything. Sorry. Skulls and bones and all kinds of things. We ain't got no business wearing that stuff. So make sure you hit them up. All right. www.itspersonalizedhere.com. Okay. Listen, you can find Pastor Steph on TikTok, Coach for Christian Life. You can find Pastor Steph on Instagram, Coach for Christian Life. You can find Pastor Steph on Facebook, Coach for Christian Life. Yeah. You can find me on social media, and you can check out our after the due points. Yeah, it's what I say to kind of post about what we talked about here on His Due Time with Pastor Steph. So make sure you join us, okay? All righty. You've been watching It's Due Time with Pastor Steph. Join us Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. where we discuss matters of the heart, mind, and spirit. As you go through your day, be sure to set your mind on things that are above, not on things that are on the earth. They will only serve as a distraction. Remember, prayer changes things. It's Pastor Steph signing off, and I want to thank my Due Time crew for always coming through big time. Thank you for hanging out with us today and helping us do what we do up in that chat room. All right, make sure you tell a friend. Please do not miss this opportunity to give Christ your life right now. Please do not miss the opportunity to strengthen that relationship with the Lord right now, because later isn't promised to anyone. Until tomorrow, God spares. Where it's Let's Talk About It Tuesday Church Folk Day. Remember, tell a friend. A Closer Walk Christian Talk Show, YouTube, send them there. Coach for Christian Life, Facebook, send them there. Instagram, send them there. TikTok, send them there. Let them get their blessing like you got yours. Until then, God spares. I love you.